Today we're going to be focusing on SOL 8.4, which has to do with PEMDAS, but when they give you values for a letter. So in this question, it says if x equals 2, that means anytime you have an x in your equation, you're going to replace it with a 2, and t equals 4, meaning anytime you have a t in your equation, you're going to replace it with a 4. What is the value of 1/8, and then in parentheses, x cubed minus 4, and then in another parentheses, t squared plus 8? So in this situation, let's go ahead and rewrite our equation, but with our substitutions. So I have 1/8, and then in parentheses, x is 2 cubed, or 2 to the third, minus 4, and then t is 4 squared plus 8. Okay? So remember PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses come first, then exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So we're going to start with our parentheses first, and we're going to go left to right. So 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2. So that's going to be 8 minus 4. Okay? And then 4 squared is 16 plus 8. 8 minus 4 is 4. And 16 plus 8 is 24. So we've done our parentheses and our exponents. Now we have to do the multiplication. Well, if you were entering a fraction in your calculator, you use the parentheses button. You click that button that I just circled, so make sure you look at your calculator now. Then you put 1 divided by 8 for this fraction, and then you close the parentheses, and then you multiply it by 4, and then 24. And the answer that you get is 12. So that's going to be letter choice A. Now again, we have a question that involves fractions. It says, what is the value of 8 divided by 3 times n to the third power when n equals 3 divided by 2? So let's rewrite our fractions, our equation. You have 8 divided by 3. Let me go ahead and fix that up. You have 8 divided by 3 times 3 halves to the third power. And remember, PEMDAS. You do not do 8 thirds times 3 halves. You do 3 halves cubed. So there's multiple ways that you can do this. One of them is to turn it into decimals. Okay? 3 divided by 2 is 1/2, 1.5 cubed. And 8 divided by 3 is 2.6 repeating, so I'm going to use 2.7. So again, in your calculator, you put 1.5 because we have to do our exponents. 1.5, and then you will hit this button. That button is basically asking you how many exponents are there. Okay? And in this case, after you hit that button, you'll let them know that there are 3, and you push equal. And what you get is 3.375, and you're going to multiply that by 2.7. So 4 times 9 is 36. Because remember, we're not doing that first. We have to do our PEMDAS. 10 cubed is 10 times 10 times 10. And 10 cubed will get us 1,000. We're going to add that to the square root. That's what that means. Of 4 times 9, which is 36. Okay? The square root of 36 is 6. And you add that to 1,000. And your answer is 1,006. In this particular situation, if m equals 1/2, so anytime I have an m, I'm going to replace it with 1/2, and n equals 5, find the value of the expression. So just take a moment to remember that 6m means 6 times m. So in this case, it's going to be 6 times negative 1/2. Times 1/2. 6 times 1 divided by 2 minus 5 squared. Okay, and we're just going to go ahead and turn that fraction into a decimal. So negative 2 times 6 times 0.5, that's what 1 divided by 2 is, minus 5 squared. And then we're going to remember our PEMDAS, okay? Parentheses come first, okay? So within parentheses, we're still going to use PEMDAS. 5 squared, right here, is 25. And 6 times 1/2 is 3. 3 minus 25 is negative 22. Okay? And now we're going to say, okay, now we're doing multiplication, which is the negative 2 times the negative 22, which equals 44. Okay, if x equals negative 2 and y equals 3, find the value of the expression. So let's rewrite our equation. Negative 7, instead of a y, I'm putting a 3, because it says y equals 3, minus, and x is negative 2. Okay, negative 2. Now, this is a tricky question, because you have a minus x, so that's minus negative. And when you have two negatives, you will add, okay? A minus and a minus is a positive, but we'll get there. So let's use our PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We don't have parentheses, we don't have exponents, but we do have multiplication right here. So it's negative 21 minus negative 2. And you can enter that in your calculator. Negative 21 minus negative 2 in order to give you the answer. Or you can do negative 21 plus 2, because you know the double negative rule, and that is going to give you negative 19. Okay, if A equals 5, B equals 2, and C equals 1/2, find the value of the expression. So let's rewrite it. There's quite a lot of work in this one. 1/3 times B to the 4th is 2 to the 4th, minus, and then in parentheses, we have 5 times 2 times 1/2, and then you're going to add that to 5 in parentheses. So, let's go ahead and use our PEMDAS. And let's simplify this. This is going to be 0.3. We're going to turn that fraction into a decimal. And then you're going to write 2 to the 4th minus 5.5 times 2 times 0.5, because 1/2 in your calculator is 0.5, plus 5. Okay? So, we do have parentheses. And within the parentheses, we have parentheses. Okay? So we still have to keep our PEMDAS within parentheses. So 5 times 2 is 10, times 0.5 is 5. And so in this case, we have 5 plus 5, which is 10. And now we can move on to our exponent. 2 to the 4th power is 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2, which is 8, times 2, which is 16. 16 minus 10 is 6. You multiply that by 0.3. 0.3 times 6 is actually 1.8, not 5. But if you put 1 divided by 3 in your calculator and then multiply it by 6, you actually get 2. So on your SOL, if you get 1.8, look for an answer that is roughly 2. Okay, round up. Alright, now this one is if A equals 9, B equals 2, and C equals negative 6. Find the value of the expression. So I'm going to rewrite it. Okay, A is 9, so I have 9 times 2 minus 2 cubed being divided by 2 squared minus negative 6. Okay, so let me remember my PEMDAS. And I'm going to automatically do my exponents first. So, I have 9 squared, 9 times 2, minus 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, that means 2 to the third power, which is 8, being divided by 2 squared is 4 minus negative 6. So I've done my exponents, and now I'm going to do my multiplication. Okay, I'm going up here. 9 times 2 is 18, minus 8, being divided by 4 minus negative 6. And so, the square root of 18 minus 8 is 10. And if you enter 4 minus negative 6 in your calculator, you get 10. So the square root of 10 divided by 10 is 1, and the square root of 1 is 1. So you're going to remember that on your calculator, you're going to use the following function for square roots. This is your square root button. It'll look like this. Okay? So when you have the square root of 1, you push that button and put 1. Our last question involves absolute value. And so in this question, A is going to equal 2. Okay, I wrote this one myself. So let's rewrite this equation. 2 times 2 plus, the up and down line means absolute value, so that's going to be negative 8 times 2 plus 14, absolute value, times 2 over 3 times 2. You're most likely not going to see a problem this difficult, but you may see a problem that involves absolute value. So, let's remember our PEMDAS. We're going to do things inside the grouping, the parentheses. So, in this case, it's going to be absolute value. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16, plus 14 is negative 2. Okay? So, we've done a parentheses. There are no exponents. Now we're going to do some multiplication. The square root of 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And then we've got our multiplication. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay? Well, now let's simplify this a little bit. Square root of 4 is 2, plus the absolute value of negative 2, times 2 divided by 6, which is 0.3. Repeating, I'm turning this into a decimal. Okay? That's all. The big rule that you have to remember is that in absolute value, whatever is in those up and down lines is positive, because absolute value is how far something is from 0 on a number line. And this is 2. So you have 2 plus 2 times 0.3. Remember, PEMDAS, we still have to do our multiplication. So 2 times 0.3 is 0.6. Add that to 2, and your answer is roughly 2.6. You may have to round it a little bit, but yeah, 2.6. So that's all. Just remember that you always use PEMDAS. Always. And absolute value, if it's a negative, the number is actually positive.